Guys and girls, people are chasing cash flow with their rental property, and I often hear people talking about Airbnb versus renting their property out. We're going to talk about some of the numbers today and the difference between Airbnb and renting your property out. Stay tuned.
Good morning.
Good morning, Billy Bob. How are you?
Wow, I've missed you.
Wow. I missed you as well, bro. It's been a while, huh? Been a while. A couple weeks.
Coming back with the biggest rental debate, hands down.
Oh,
this
yeah.
is all about cash.
Absolutely. And look, people are chasing cash at the moment. You know, we are getting people that are moving back with family, or they're moving into one home. They're sort of, just to rent out the property that they own. And then they really want to put that on steroids. So they're saying, can we do that by doing Airbnb? So this morning we're just going to run through obviously the main differences between the two, the cash flow, the experience. Now, it's great because you've actually done both with your property. So you gave it a great run on Airbnb. You gave it a great run just with renting it out to a conventional tenant. We're going to explore those differences now.
Yeah.
But you've been inside Airbnb.com, the website, inside Airbnb.com. What do they tell us? Because this is interesting. They scraped, so they went into Airbnb and they scraped all the data that Airbnb wants you to see and doesn't want you to see, and they've surfaced it in their website called, free website, inside Airbnb.com. What do you know?
Yeah, I'm not alone here with giving this whole Airbnb thing a go. There's 25,460 active Airbnbs just in Sydney alone. That's unbelievable to think there's that many properties, available. Now, not all those are a listing where you move in and you've got the whole house. However, that does make up majority of it. There's the facts and the figures for you. I don't know if that's going to read too well. It doesn't. But 71% you can get the entire place for, and then there's private rooms.
You know what you can do? Can you plug in that phone, Billy?
Probably not. This is on a Wi-Fi, but you can jump on the website and have a look. Put in your area you want to look at, and it is fascinating to look at. It's a huge amount of property to think that's not in the long-term rental market.
It's big for Sydney. Now, things to consider, there's vacancy as well. So when you're doing Airbnbs, that you're getting unbelievable rentals, incredible rentals through December and January, and you're also getting them through the Easter peak. So in those travel periods when people are moving, coming to Sydney to see family, they're going on a holiday, that Airbnb goes bananas and you're getting huge rates. What sort of rates were you getting on your place? So if just to put people in perspective, you were in sort of Mossman Neutral Bay in Sydney, which is quite a nice premium suburb. You had a one bedroom. What sort of rents were you getting on your Airbnb?
On a percentage basis, I'd get an extra 50% a week, I reckon, on a good week. So
massive. Normally
looking at about 550 to 600 a week long term. You could be stretching that out to say 700, 800, 900. On a good week, it'd be obviously at the topper end of that range. It was great. It was worthwhile. It served a purpose. I think what people really like about Airbnb, and I have met many clients that enjoy the same benefits, is when you're using the property maybe 6 months of the year, and you can't sustain a long-term tenant for the other 6 months, so you're kind of just going to go in between. Airbnb serves a really nice purpose there. But you're absolutely right. There is vacancy. You've got to consider it as well. So it's
all right. So I've got a unit. I've moved out. I can do a conventional rental, put a tenant in on a 6 to 12-month lease, or I can do an Airbnb, style there, and also get to enjoy the property as well. furnishing the property is probably the first thing. One will be vacant, a conventional rental. The Airbnb will be furnished. What do you reckon, you'd spend? Like, what did you spend? Say if your unit's worth 600-700 grand, it's one
Yeah.
better. What to furnish something like that for Airbnb standards? Got to be a pretty good standard, yeah.
Yeah, I think you have got to invest a little bit, otherwise you simply won't get you won't get the rating, you won't get the bookings, and it all comes undone. You can't really do it cheap either. I was really fortunate where I bought my place and it actually had furniture in it, so it didn't cost me as much. And if I hadn't have had that, I wouldn't have considered Airbnb from the get go. But I reckon you've got to drop at least 5,000. What's a sofa, a TV, a fridge? Tables and chairs, a good bed, a mattress worth these days, plus all the little knickknacks in between. I mean, things get broken, things got to get replaced. You've got all the cuddlery, you've got all the linen. That's another thing you can't go cheap on. If you're making people sleep on a haystack and with a blanket,
Yeah.
you're not going to get many people booking in. And people expect this when they're paying $700-800 a week to stay in a 1-bedroom apartment. These are things that, like a hotel room, you can't compromise on. So that's what you're competing against, when it's
Was it
$100,
fun?
$150 a week, a night. Sorry.
Was it fun to do it?
It was a lot of time, a lot of energy. Fun, probably not the right word. As I said, it served its purpose. And I'm glad I did it for 6 months. But I certainly won't be back into the market as an Airbnb host anytime soon.
What sort of hours do you reckon? So obviously you're getting that up sort of 50% more rent. How much did you underestimate the time that you needed to commit to the Airbnb, or did you think that was less work than you thought?
No,
Definitely
more. Definitely more. It was really hard to understand how much more though until you, as I said, committed to the job. I didn't have anyone looking after it. I just did it on my own. So I've seen some management services be as much as 5 or 6 times what a property manager would cost for a long-term tenant. So these guys are getting charged up in between 20 and 30% to manage their Airbnbs if you're not doing it on your own.
got it.
Obviously, these guys make a full-time job out of it as well. So to put that into context, someone who's looking after it themselves are doing the work and then going to look after an Airbnb afterwards. It's a lot of work. I reckon if I had to break it down into hours, you could quite easily put away 2 hours per changeover of each tenancy. And this is just for a little 1-bedroom apartment, guys. If you're doing a house or 2-3 bedrooms, forget it. You obviously need help with a cleaner. And then you've got all the pre-booking and the exit messages. You've got to make sure they know where they're going, know when they're checking in, know when they're checking out. It's a lot of time.
So Luke's got a question here. Was it worth the time? I guess that's the bottom line, the question on everyone's lips.
Yeah, for someone who's working a full-time job, I think you can make your hours used better elsewhere and enjoy probably the stress-free lifestyle of not having an Airbnb. If you're working part-time, you live close by, or some people make a hobby out of it. They enjoy it. Absolutely. Of course, you can say it's worthwhile, but don't underestimate the amount of hours.
And also, Branka from our office did this as well. Beachfront Property DY gave 3-bedroom, gave it a go on Airbnb, lucrative, super lucrative, and gave it a go as a conventional rental. And I guess what's interesting is she's a qualified property manager. She does the whole rental thing really well all the time, and it was under her nose because it was in DY. She works in DY. She lives in DY. The property was in DY. Again, she made that switch. So I think what I'm finding, I think in summary, guys and girls, what I'm finding is if you really want to enjoy that property, as well as have it rented out, Airbnb is perfect. So you may blend it with living with mum or dad sometimes and Airbnb sometimes. If you are looking for the blend, I think it's lucrative. If you're not looking for the blend, and I guess with you it was Neutral Bay, and where you're living with family was in freshwater, that sort of compounds to a little bit of the work. There's lots of little things to come to it, but I do get people mentioning it to me. They do only see the star signs, and there's not many discussions like this to be had to meet someone who's done both.
Yeah, you got to look at the true cost of everything. What you're putting in and what you're getting out is so important to compare. And the list for a short term tenant, for a long term tenant is like this: probably 4 or 5 different dot points of what you need in terms of lease agreement, property manager, bits and bobs. Um, Long term, a short term tenant, you're like this. It's everything. It's like running a whole nother household. And what people don't realize is that the rents for a 2-3 year period didn't move. They weren't catching up, and so there was quite a big gap between a nightly
That's a good
price and
point.
a weekly price. Now, this year alone, DY units have done 11.2% rental yield growth.
Yeah,
11.2.
that's a really, really good point. So, all in all, Airbnb lucrative, but more work than you may think. Billy, thanks for coming on and having a chat about it. That's bloody awesome. Luke brought up an item saying that there's new costs and charges that governments are imposing over Airbnbers. Lisa brought
Yep.
up that some stratas will not allow Airbnb in their comments today. So definitely consider those things as well.
Have a good day, guys. Hope this helped.
Love you. See ya. Bye.